These conspiracy theories seriously need to be investigated. There are a ton of viral celebrity conspiracy theories, and today we're going to be investigating them. The first conspiracy theory I want to talk about has to do with there being witches in Hollywood. I love this theory. I think it's so spooky and fun, but a lot of people take it a little seriously because they're like, no, witchcraft is bad. But I think low-key, a lot of celebrities are doing a lot more witchcraft than you think. But there are a couple conspiracy theories specifically surrounding Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande, and Gisele Bündchen. So it's obviously not a new concept. Salem witch trials. That anytime that there is a powerful woman who is too smart, too beautiful, too whatever, people accuse her of being a witch. And I think it can be problematic to an extent, but there's also parts of it that now I think are true. So one of the biggest conspiracy theories is definitely the fact that Taylor Swift is a witch. I feel like a lot of this conspiracy theory started occurring during the Reputation era, just because there were a lot of snakes and symbolism and just things that people thought were a little bit strange or occult-like. Taylor Swift is also someone who's like highly fascinated with the concept of fate and karma. She's obsessed with the number 13, and every new album also just has so many different little details to it and little breadcrumbs for each release that are so specific and so well thought out that people on Reddit think she must be a witch. I also really think that a lot of this theory surrounds around the Willow music video specifically, because it opens with like a golden thread leading Taylor through the forest. And that's kind of basic symbolism for destiny or fate. And then in the Willow music video, all of the lights just kind of go around her in a very mythical way, obviously. And a lot of people think that that's her admitting that she, in fact, is a witch. I don't know. I feel like it's a little dramatic, but I do think that there are truths to it. So for one, obviously, in some of the darkest corners on the internet, people think that the high priestess of the Church of Satanism, which is Lena Zavy, is related to Taylor Swift because they look so similar. And I will agree, I have always thought that it was interesting because they do look a lot alike. I just don't really see there being a connection here, at least familial, that we know of. But a lot of people think that Taylor Swift has used witchcraft in order to gain fame and money and control over a lot of people, which I will say she does, in fact, have a cult-like following. That's kind of the name and game here. I think Taylor Swift has one of the most loyal fan bases that I've ever seen, and I think that the idea that it could be due to witchcraft is kind of fun, okay? Some of her performances on the Eras tour were very like coven-y and witch vibes, and so I understand why people believe this theory overall, but when we're really talking about witches, I think one of the most interesting people to talk about is Ariana Grande. So she is a witch, Miss Glinda, but she is somebody who has always been obsessed with like dark stuff, the occult, Halloween, like all of the above. And so do I think that she does witchcraft? Yes. She's literally posted herself like using tarot cards before. Not that that's like necessarily witchcraft. I think that she does light witchcraft in the sense of maybe she lights like a little spell candle and reads her little tarot cards. Like I don't think that she's doing anything demonic per se, but I'm sure a lot of people will disagree with me on that. And that's kind of how I feel about Taylor Swift as well. It's like I do think that they probably partake in a lot of these little witchy traditions, but I don't think it's necessarily satanic, you know? I think that Ariana and Taylor Swift specifically are just great examples of people who have cracked the code of life, which is that manifesting is absolutely real. And I think kind of believing in spirituality or whatever you really want to call it is definitely a big thing in Hollywood, and it's a lot bigger than you think. I think every single celebrity knows about manifesting and has done it consciously to become famous, and I just feel like it's so obvious, right? Gisele Bündchen is another person who has openly spoken about being very spiritual, using meditation, manifestation, wearing protective crystals before all of Tom Brady's games, etc. And a lot of people think that that means that she's a witch. And you know what? She could call it whatever she wants, but she's someone who believes in like manifesting abundance and using different tools like crystals to do that. And there's like a pretty big conspiracy theory that ever since they got divorced, Tom Brady's luck in football has gone out the window because she's no longer wearing her protective crystals to make sure that he plays well. I couldn't even tell you. Again, I do think a lot of these celebrities definitely use meditation, intention, manifesting, spell work, all of that stuff. But again, I don't know if I necessarily think it's satanic. I do think there definitely are some people that are more satanic leaning, like they have very, like, they have very dark and scary, like, symbolic visuals within their music videos, and all of that stuff I think is weird. Like Katy Perry, Dark Horse, like that had such weird vibes to it. Freaking Lil Nas dressed as the devil. I don't like it, but I want to know what you guys think. All right, the next theory I want to talk about is all about the music industry bloodline. And I think that this is such an interesting point that honestly, I don't know why more people don't talk about it. So this conspiracy theory is basically the idea that superstardom isn't just discovered, but it's inherited. And again, it's like not through necessarily contracts or connections or like direct like mother and daughter, they're both famous, like nepo baby type of shit. It's more dark, written in blood, and occult-like. It's more ancestral than that. It's darker and begins before we can even count back. So basically, a lot of people compare vintage photos of different golden age singers to modern singers, and they look suspiciously similar. So to a lot of the believers, there's kind of music dynasties within this conspiracy theory. Like you have the Carters, the Smiths, the Osbournes, the Jacksons, the Knowles family. Like it really does become quite familial in the industry, but I do think it's more again than just being a nepo baby. So for example, this theory is really talking about the idea that if a star surfaces that's like brand new to everything, never has done anything before, the reason that they do so well is because they have this dark lineage that is connected to it, and it's basically in their blood. Kind of like the royal family, but a little bit less obvious. I also think there's a lot of aspects of this that are kind of true here. For example, I feel like we really do focus on emulating past stars. Like when Bruno Mars was popping off, people were like, oh, he's the new Michael Jackson. And Ariana Grande was the new Mariah Carey. Like it's always this comparison going on. But the conspiracy theory is basically that there is a darker trait and kind of that everyone in Hollywood is low-key related and all celebrities come from within the same bloodline. And that's why they get to be famous and live this lavish life and we're left just being normal. I don't know. This also goes a little bit hand in hand with a celebrity reincarnation idea or slash people think that different celebrities are vampires. I kind of like the idea of them being actually bloodline related to these people a little bit more. I think it's more realistic probably than them being vampires, but who knows? Like Anne Hathaway and her husband literally looking like William Shakespeare. And also William Shakespeare literally had a wife named Anne Hathaway and said that he would find her in every lifetime. So people think that Anne Hathaway and her husband are Shakespeare and Anne Hathaway reincarnated. And I do think that it's possible, if reincarnation is real, that our souls kind of choose similar life paths to what they've done in a past life. Like there's so many different like viral pictures of people from like the 30s who look like Jay-Z or Nicolas Cage or Jennifer Lawrence. And what if instead of, oh, they've just been alive the whole time, they're vampires? The theory is really that they are reincarnated versions of these people. And I think that is a little bit more interesting. And it kind of could connect with the celebrity bloodline theory as well, because maybe they are connected by blood in some way. I mean, some of the images of different celebrities who look like people from the 1930s is so uncanny that it honestly feels like it has to have some truth to it, that they have to be related in some way. All right, the next theory I want to talk about is the energy twin theory. So I think this is such an interesting concept. It's basically the idea that there are different celebrities who are sharing one energetic flame of being famous, and one of them ends up getting burnt out, and then one of them ends up like succeeding a lot. It'll make more sense when we have examples, okay? The phrase energy twins slash twin flames really started showing up in astrology forums and basically describing how different celebrities seem to have like the same life path, but then something really happened that a lot of different celebrities have the same life path, but then they split in such an interesting way. It's like two stars get plugged into the same outlet of public attention, and then one of them ends up being brighter and burns the other one out. And this happens so much in Hollywood. It's kind of nuts, especially when it comes to like childhood actors. Like people talk about Selena Gomez and Demi Lovato and how they kind of grew up in a very similar manner. Like they were both on Barney and then they were both on Disney Channel, and then Selena continued to explode her career while Demi struggled with addiction and various other things that are representative of the said burnout. Obviously Demi Lovato is still famous and doing great, but her life was harder at some point, but their lives were so in line with each other that it just was a very big point where things just split. I think you could say similar to Hilary Duff and Lindsay Lohan. People were pitting them against each other from the beginning because of friggin' Aaron Carter. And again, they started out child actors and they were having similar career paths. And then Lindsay Lohan was the one that got burnt out there and needed help and went off the deep end. Taylor Swift and Katy Perry low-key kind of both started in similar. I don't know if you would say that Taylor Swift, well, like Taylor Swift obviously started as like a country singer. Katy Perry also started as like a Christian singer. I don't know. I do think that this is a concept that makes sense and there's a lot of different examples of it. So I don't know. I want to hear what you guys think on it. Do you think there could be celebrities who are riding the same twin flame and then one of them eventually ends up getting burnt out? Is it just a coincidence? I don't know. The next theory I want to talk about is the idea that Whitney Houston's real mother isn't who she says it is. So there's been a long-running conspiracy theory that an actress named Teresa Graves is Whitney Houston's real mother. I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that there is a pretty striking resemblance between Whitney Houston and Teresa Graves. They genuinely look a lot alike. But this has been a theory that people have believed for such a long time. But the birth of this conspiracy theory really started through messaging boards online that were devoted to exposing hidden Hollywood bloodlines, which is again kind of what we were talking about earlier. The users share photos of Whitney Houston and Teresa Graves looking so similar, and someone also pointed out that both women have deep church backgrounds, powerful voices, and from there the theory blossomed. A lot of people also think it's strange because Teresa Graves disappeared from Hollywood at the height of her career. And that kind of blank space of time is when people really think that Whitney Houston was born and this whole conspiracy theory started. So obviously Whitney Houston's mother, Cissy Houston, it's public record that she is Whitney Houston's mother, but a lot of people still believe this theory to be true even to this day. Most people just think that there are no records because they covered it up and they don't want people to know that everyone in Hollywood low-key are Nepo babies and are related. I also think Whitney Houston's death in 2012 had a big role in this conspiracy theory. Like, a lot of people were just trying to search for meaning that wasn't there and coming up with different theories. So I do think a lot of conspiracy theories came out of her death, and this is definitely one that was amplified by it. I think a lot of people believe this theory simply because they look so much alike, but you have to think there are so many people in Hollywood that honestly do look a lot alike. Nina Dobrev and freaking Victoria Justice. What is that? What is that? Is it just people that look alike because we all allegedly have doppelgängers? Like 7 of them? But the thing is, if that were true, why are there so many people who have doppelgängers that are also celebrities? That is what I've always thought was weird. I think that with Margot Robbie has a couple celebrity lookalikes, Elijah Wood and Daniel Radcliffe, the list goes on, and I think the idea that they might be secretly related somewhere kind of falls back into the conspiracy theory that we talked about earlier, which is the whole bloodline and the Hollywood bloodline and the idea that you have to be connected in order to become famous. And I don't know. I will say I do think it's weird because have you ever met your doppelganger? Because personally, no. Like, I've seen people be like, oh, you look like me. No. But there is something so crazy about how much, especially, I'm just going to use them as an example, Victoria Justice and Nina Dobrev look alike. It's kind of bonkers, really. Like, I cannot believe that 2 people look so similar, but also the fact that both of these people ended up being famous actors. Like, that's kind of weird. Like, I don't know why more people don't think that's odd. I honestly think there could be truth or some sort of connection with Whitney Houston and Teresa Graves. They do look very similar, and I do think that that goes within Hollywood. Like, if I was freaking Nina Dobrev or Victoria Justice, I'd be like, girl, can we take a DNA test? Like, are we related? Like, I feel like they have to be, right? It honestly really is wild to me how many celebrities have lookalikes that are also celebrities. And not even just Ariana Grande and that girl Paige who copies her. Like, obviously when you're a celebrity, you're gonna have random people that try to look like you or even do naturally look like you. But the fact that they're both famous and both successful, that to me is weird. It's just weird. And there are so many instances of that, and I think it's strange. Does it prove life is a simulation, or does it prove the idea that you have to be related to the original, like, Hollywood bloodline in order to be famous? I don't know. But then also, does that mean that everyone's related and that they're like dating their cousins? But also, low-key, everyone is kind of related in some way, so I don't know. I think it's an interesting theory, but let me know your thoughts. All right, the next conspiracy theories that we're going to be talking about are surrounding the death of River Phoenix. So on Halloween weekend in 1993, River Phoenix was out in West Hollywood at a club called the Viper Room, and he never walked out. He was only 23 years old, and this single night has become one of the biggest conspiracy theories in pop culture history. So the Viper Room had only opened a few months before River passed away, and it was co-owned by Johnny Depp. It quickly became the place that young Hollywood elite would go to escape paparazzi and just kind of hang out with each other. Like, it was very much actors, musicians, and models inside. On the night of October 30th to the early morning of October 31st, 1993, River Phoenix arrived at the Viper Room with his siblings Rain and Joaquin and his girlfriend Samantha Mathis. What happened next, reportedly, that River Phoenix ingested a lethal amount of mixed substances and then collapsed on the sidewalk just after 1 a.m. and obviously passed away. So I think a lot of people really couldn't reconcile with the idea that River Phoenix passed away of a drug overdose because he was a vegan activist who meditated. He very much didn't fit the regular narrative of somebody who would OD. And so this was where the conspiracy theories started to begin. Early conspiracy theories that went viral in chat rooms were that he had been spiked, it was a setup, or that the Viper Room itself was cursed. His fans just really believed that there was something darker behind his death. I think people still find the Viper Room to be pretty cursed because obviously it's dark, it's Viper, it's snake themed logo. There was a Hollywood Halloween death. It was all just a little too eerie. I also think it's interesting that the Phoenix family grew up in a cult that I feel like a lot of people don't know about. We talked about it recently. I just did a video on different celebrity cults, and so we talked about it there, but they were part of Children of God, which is a very strange freaking cult, I will say. Similar to Scientology, but in some ways a little bit stranger, honestly. I just think there could be a certain level of truth to some of the conspiracy theories, and maybe not everything was as simple as it seemed. People also freak out that this was on Halloween because allegedly the veil is the thinnest, the veil between our world and the spiritual world, whatever you want to call it, is the thinnest on Halloween night. And so a death on that night, just honestly, it felt a little too much like a story to be true. Again, the autopsy reports confirmed that it was a fatal drug overdose, and his friends and family have spoken openly about the pressures that River faced and the contradiction between his spiritual ideals and Hollywood's relentless pace. And I do think that that is kind of an interesting concept of it all, because it's did Hollywood take away from this kid? He was only 23 years old at the time. Yeah, in some ways, yes. And I do think that that is kind of the idea that the Viper Room itself is cursed, but really it's kind of Hollywood in general. Especially because I feel like someone like River Phoenix is not just another actor, but he is a symbol of what Hollywood can take and do to art and talent. And it's dark, it is. I do think that there's a lot of truth to this theory, whether or not he was actually drugged, if the Viper Room was really haunted, if it was because it was Halloween. I don't know if those things are actually true, but what I will say without a doubt, we've seen it multiple times over and over again, is that Hollywood takes someone who has a light spirit and just completely darkens it. Devil. Not good. But it is a very interesting theory overall. I don't know. Again, I kind of think that now at least the Viper Room feels a little haunted to me. I probably wouldn't go there, not gonna lie. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Anyway, that is it for today's video. If you guys liked it, please give it a big thumbs up. Let me know any celebrities that you want me to talk about conspiracy theories behind them in the future. But anyway, that is it. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, and subscribe for new videos every week. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.